Welcome to RTF Sports Talk. I am Michael Buckosh. I'm joined, as always, with Billy Hatton. Billy, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. Busy morning, but nonetheless, let's talk some sports.
And as always, we're joined with Matthew Lau as well. Matthew, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Fine, sirs. I am doing good.
Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about possible landing spots for Carmelo Anthony, the big trade that happened in the NBA over the weekend, Jimmy Butler, and then we're going to do overreactions for the NFL. All that and much more right after the intro here.
If you came to prove, there's no reason to prove.
RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
And now you've got yourself something funky.
RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk. RTF Sports Talk.
Alrighty, welcome back to RTF Sports Talk here. So we're going to jump right into today's show here, and the big news that's kind of happening in the NBA, besides the trades, of course, is Carmelo Anthony and his possible landing spots. Matthew Lyle, where's a good landing spot for Carmelo Anthony, and like, why would this be a good landing spot in your eyes? We'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, I'm going to give out some of the early contenders. You know, a lot of people have been saying Philadelphia. I don't quite think Philadelphia is a good landing spot for them. Kyrie has said that he wished he had a 14, 15-year vet to run through, help them get through to the playoffs. Boston's not really a good landing spot due to how many big or threes and fours that they have there. I would say some people even said Golden State. As a Golden State fan, I'm going to say no, thank you. Just keep on going. A lot of people are saying L.A., and me and Billy talked about this. I do think L.A. is probably the best spot in the NBA for him, given the fact that they're really not sure what kind of team they're going to have right now, and they're just trying to get some leadership. And I think LeBron is the one person that Melo would listen to. When I said, hey, man, I need you to come off the bench, I think he would listen to Melo before he would listen to any of the 30 coaches in the league. Now, with that being said, what I think he should do, and obviously I'm not a pro athlete with the pride that it takes to get there and the self-confidence, but you just see it so often, especially these last couple of seasons here. I would go to China. The man can shoot as much as he wants, score 100 points any game he wants, get the Stephon Marbury statue. The man could be a legend. They would love him. He would get his own show. He would get his own cereal. He would get his own shoes back. He would have a statue. They might even name a city off of a player like Melo overseas. Now, obviously, he's not going to – the pride might take a hit, but you talk about setting up the next years of your career, maybe in the next decade, because once you get to that status, you're getting restaurants named after you. You're getting food named after you. You're getting maybe even a car named after you. Go over there and be a legend. I mean, the world, the game is so international now. The world's so international now with social media. You're not going to go over there and be forgotten about. You're just going to go over there and be loved by a different group of people. And still, I mean, ESPN's still going to talk about you. So if it was me personally, let me go be a hero over here.
That's disrespectful. I'm just going to say that. That's totally disrespectful. But before I'm gonna get to the teams first. LA, as he already mentioned, I think what we know how LeBron feels about veteran leadership, which is the reason why he quote unquote signed off on the Tyson Chandler thing. He went and asked Rondo to join him. He called up Lance Stevenson. He wanted JaVale McGee. We know LeBron don't like playing with young guys. He likes playing with veterans. I think that works. Obviously, the friendship there. I think Milwaukee could use another veteran presence on that team as they push to try to be the best team in the East. I also think the Clippers. He could work well in that system where they don't really have all-stars on that team. You know, So I think he can work well with those teams. Let me just get to the real point. I don't like that Melo is being used as the scapegoat. Let me run something down to you. Chris Paul making $160 million a year. I mean, $160 million over 4 years. He's averaging 17 points per game. That's only 4 points better than Carmelo, the guy who's making $2.4 million. He's shooting 37% while Melo is shooting 42%. And the wins, CP3 is doing amazing. He's shooting 46. But in the losses, he's shooting 33%. Harden shooting 40% on the year. Now we know Harden can score obviously because he gets to the free throw line a lot, so his points are going to be skewed a lot. He's averaging 27 points per game, shooting 40%. In November, he's shooting 37%. In November, Melo shooting 45%. So for me, Clint Capella, his field goal percentage is going to be a little off. He's shooting 64%, but that's like me telling you, oh, man, LeBron James is the best shooter in the league because 1 year he led the league in field goal percentage. A lot of his points are around the basket. Can we start with this Melo is the reason why they're playing so bad? And how about let's talk about Daryl Morey? I said this earlier when we first talked about this. Daryl Morey is the real problem. People are trying to say that he replaced that they got rid of Trevor Ariza and Luka Badamute for Carmelo. No, they got him because they had nobody else, because they had already let these guys go before Melo was even in any trade talks. So for me, let's start with the guys that's making $200+ million, $160 million, $90 million before we talk about the guy that's making $2.4 million and shooting a better field goal percentage than your second best player on the team and only 4 points less than him. Carmelo is not the problem. He's not the problem. But people are going to use him as the problem, and I get it. He's the last member of that crew. You're going to say, oh, it didn't work in New York. Oh, it didn't work in OKC. So now let's just blame Melo. And I don't think that's fair to him when he's not the problem on this team.
I mean, he's not the main problem. He's one of 1,000 problems, a part of that team and that organization. But like to your last point, Billy, you took it right from me. It's just how it works. He's the newest guy. He's the smallest paid guy. He's the guy that potentially does get some of the bad rap. So he's going to get the negative pub when it comes to this. And it keeps piling on. There was a report that I seen from one of the basketball nerds, one of those people that really come up with these next stat and their analytical numbers, that if they move, that the Rockets' likelihood or the Rockets' percentage increased 19% to make the playoffs if they get rid of Melo. Now, I don't know what they're taking into consideration with that, but when you see things like that, that decision gets that much easier to make because the Rockets have been that team that listens to the analytics, that listens to these numbers that no one else is looking at. That's what makes them so special. But I'm right there with you, Billy. Now, we disagree on what I think of our thoughts on Melo, but he's not just the problem. I didn't like CP3. I don't like James Harden. I thought they both overachieved last year. They're both known chokers in the playoffs, and they both just happened to overachieve. Chris Paul did lead that team, but that was, I think, we talked about it this summer. I think that was a one and done. He's going to go back to his old choking ways. So this team is in trouble either way, but it's just they're just going to blame it on Melo. And as far as, and rightfully wrong, Stephen Jackson came out and he said that he's being blackballed like AI and like himself and AI. I was going to bring up AI because what you're going to see, right or wrong, you're going to see Melo bounce around 3 or 4 teams this season until he inevitably has to retire. And that's why you said it was disrespectful, but is that any less disrespectful or more disrespectful than going overseas and being a hero, being a god, or bouncing around and being in 3 or 4 different uniforms? I think right or wrong, he's going to get the scapegoat and he's going to be kicked around for the rest of the year.
I think it is disrespectful, though. You're talking about China, guys that can't play basketball. The NBA, we're not even talking the G League. We're talking China, where Jimmer Fredette just scored 70-some points. That's disrespectful for a guy of Melo's caliber. He's not Stephon Marbury. He's not Jimmer Fredette. He's none of these guys. This guy is a future Hall of Famer. And we're talking about going to China. Yes, that is disrespectful, especially when he's not the problem. When he is not the problem at all. And and I get it. Now that's not to say Melo hasn't played bad. I'll be crazy to sit up here and say Melo hasn't played bad. But he's not the reason why they're losing. And to say we're going to get rid of him because of whatever and all of these analytics, that portion of the analytics, I care nothing about. Probabilities, I don't care about that because that's not factual. I care about what's facts. And what's facts is he's shooting a better field goal percentage than the two best stars on the team while also playing 7 to 8 less minutes than both of those guys. That's facts.
Well, no, I mean, we agreed on that, but, like I always tell people, fair is a place to go judge pigs. And it's not going to be fair the way Melo gets handled. But I'm telling you, I don't think Melo's going to be in the league next year. And it might be disrespectful for him to go do something else, but it might be disrespectful for him to be sitting on the jump with Tracy McGrady and those crew. So I would rather go overseas and be treated like a god than be forgotten about in the G League. I'm just saying I think he's going to get, if he is being blacklisted or whatever Steven Jackson said him and AI happened, maybe it's going to happen. I don't know. But clearly I don't think he's going to see himself get to stay as long as he wants like some of the other greats. And I think he has to make that decision up for himself.
I wouldn't see it as a disgrace. I mean, this guy's been in the league 16 years. I mean, that's a pretty solid NBA career. I mean, everybody don't get to ride out 4 bad seasons like Kobe did, or Duncan when he was kind of on the decline. Like, everybody, or KG, nobody really gets to do that. So 16-year career, I take that. So for retirement, to me, that's not disrespectful. Going over to China saying that that's disrespectful. Retirement after a 16-year NBA career, that's good. Most people aspire to have a 16-year career.
You're saying this from what's your point of view, and I mean, I guess that's a show. What's our point of view? Melo has told you that there's 3 things. Has showed you there's 3 things he likes to do: score the ball, make money, and be popular. I think he's got a much better chance of all that on going to a different country and being that hero. They will pay him ungodly amount of money. He will be ungodly popular. He will get to score the ball any time and as much as he wants. If he wants to shoot 75 shots, they will love him for that. So let him go out and play some more, man. Let him go play and have some fun because it's not going to happen here at the league. So let him go do it. It's not disrespectful. It's just something he wants. If it's something he wants to do, let him go do it. I think it would behoove his interest. He could make movies over there, and he's showed an interest of wanting to make movies.
Alrighty, guys, those are some great points here. Just from the Vegas odds here, the likely landing spots for Carmelo is the Philadelphia 76ers, the Los Angeles Lakers, Los Angeles Clippers, and then coming in 4th place, the Denver Nuggets, all which I think would be really good fits for him moving forward. Speaking of already being traded, over this last week, Jimmy Butler has finally been traded to the Philadelphia 76ers. And the power rankings are already making an impact to showing that trade. They're now calling for the 76ers to be the best team out in the East. Matthew, what are your thoughts on this trade?
I think my initial thought, which I don't know how true it is, there was those rumors that Houston was going to give up 4 number ones. I would probably have taken that over Covington and a number 1. And I think there was a 3rd player included. But if that was just rumors, if that was just rumors, then I'll put that on the back burner. Now, it's one of those ones where I still don't know. I have a lot of questions. The possibility could go up or down. It's teetering right now. It could go great. It could end horribly because I've heard this before. Jimmy Butler gets to be a leader for a team that has a very talented big, a very talented young big. And at the time, when they got Jimmy Butler, this certain talented young big was voted by the NBA executives to be the number 1 player to start a team around. A guard/forward who really couldn't shoot, but his athleticism and scoring ability was something that we thought would really be great. And that didn't work out in Minnesota because those guys proved to be not as good, or at least not as playing up to their potential, and they were very immature. So now here we are with a young Jimmy Butler is going to be a leader on a young, talented team with a young, dominant big and a guard that can't shoot but he can score any way he wants. Now, I happen to think that these two players have a bigger upside than the other two, and if that seems to be the case, then I think this could end very well. But what if these guys are just equally as immature? What if Joe? Because Joel Embiid tends to talk and be a little bit more chatty on social media than Karl-Anthony Towns. What if everything that rumored to happen up in Minnesota happens here in Philly? What if Embiid's just a little too silly? Butler doesn't like it. God forbid if Butler hooks up with some chick that Embiid's into. That'll be blasted all over social media. What if he gets frustrated? Now, Ben Simmons seems to be a little bit more mature, but he also has some decision-making. A little tends to be off the court. You know, he really struggled at LSU. It was a team he didn't take to the NCAA tournament, which a lot of people look at. If that's going to be the number one pick, I need you to at least turn out and take your bad team and make them better. A lot of people give him flack for that. This has a great potential to be a really great team. But a lot of the red flags over the last season was raised in Minnesota. You could almost make a point those could potentially be equally as raised in Philadelphia. Only time will tell.
I don't think this is going to work. I don't think Jimmy Butler is that type caliber player that we're talking about taking a guy or taking a team anywhere. He's never done it. And I would say that this is probably one of his least talented teams. If you just take away Embiid, because to me, I don't think Ben Simmons is as good as a player as people say he is. He has no jump shot, whether that's the 2-pointer or the 3-pointer. He's not a great ball handler, which that showed in the playoffs last year when they had to put T.J. McConnell running the point because Ben Simmons can't dribble. He's a good passer. He's a good rebounder. And he has high IQ. But to me, that's the only thing Ben Simmons got going for him. And he's been that way going back to his days at LSU. Anybody of his caliber that can't get a team of 68 into a playoff format, he's not good. So Jimmy Butler, yes, we know what he brings to the table. He's going to play tough defense. He's going to get you about 24, 25 a game. We know what Embiid is going to bring. To me right now, I think he's the best big man in all of basketball. But they don't have anything else. They got J.J. Redick, but they lost Covington, who was all defensive first team last year. Saric, who is a really good 3-point shooter for that team. Now they got no shooting. So now you got Ben Simmons. Now you got Joel Embiid. Jimmy Butler, who also can't really shoot. He can hit it every now and then, but he's not a consistent shooter. And J.J. Redick is your only consistent shooter. Now, to your earlier point, Matthew, I said this yesterday on Unpopular Opinion. How do you turn down 4 first-round picks to get Saric and Covington when your team is not made to win a championship right now? Even with Jimmy Butler, your team wasn't going to win a championship. So why not take your 4 first-round picks and say, we're going to be good later? Trade them to Houston. I understand they probably want to trade them in conference to Houston. But to me, I think that's the exception of the rule. This is not the Cleveland Cavaliers trading Kyrie to their rival in the East, who they just saw the year prior in the Western Conference Finals. The Eastern Conference Finals, which you knew that you had a great potential to see those guys again in the Eastern Conference Finals. This ain't, the San Antonio Spurs giving Kawhi to LeBron, knowing that your team is going to be down. This is, I get a chance to get rid of Jimmy Butler, a guy who don't want to be here clearly, and I get to get 4 first-round picks, and we can still have a decent season. Now you got Sarge and Covington for what? Like this, to me, the move don't make any sense for neither team, if you ask me. And I still think this 76ers team is still behind Milwaukee, Boston, and Toronto.
Yeah, Billy, just to close up on that, you make a great point, and you brought up everything on the court. I brought up some of the worst-case scenarios off the court. If those happen, and if Houston continues to be the dumpster fire that we talked about, and I think, based on things we talked about just on the side, that wouldn't have changed with the addition of Jimmy Butler. Minnesota could have got some great picks out of that, especially 4 of them being first grade.
Yeah, for real.
There's a really good chance, in my opinion, and I think you're leading there with me, that nobody won this trade, that everybody lost.
Yeah, everybody lost.
It goes poorly. Because, Yeah. So, and I would not take it. And I think a lot of people who think Philadelphia is going to be better is picturing the way they played with Covington and Skarek on the court. Now you got to take those away, and I don't think it's going to be that good of a picture.
Alrighty, guys, here. And just to pretty much echo what you guys are saying, last week the 76ers were ranked 10th in the NBA power rankings. This week they are up to 7th. Also, their odds have jumped from, I believe it was 20-1 to win the NBA championship, to now it's up to 14-1, tied with LA and Houston. So just some insights on that. Go ahead.
And just one more point, Mike. This team was already 21st in offensive efficiency. And now you lose two good three-point shooters or decent three-point shooters. Sorry, a good Covington, a decent. And you add Jimmy Butler. How is that going to help your offense for a team that was already 21st in offensive efficiency? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't. You can go ahead, though, Mike. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is one thing. The only thing that's going to save it, and I think that we'll just make this real quick, is if Jimmy Butler is somewhat aware of his career going in a certain direction, and he's able to just come out and have the best season of his career and acts like a leader and a captain on the court, and he's great in front of the TV and in front of the locker room. He's great on the perception of him is awesome, and he averages 30 points. That's the only way that this is going to work out. And I agree.
I agree with you on that one.
And just to take the words out of Matthew Lyle's mouth here, it is only November. Talk to me in January. So moving forward here, let's go ahead and move on to the NFL. One of my favorite segments that we do on the show is Overreaction Tuesday. And we're going to start with Matthew. Overreaction. Mitchell Trubisky is this year's Jared Goff. Overreaction, underreaction.
It's an underreaction in the sense that it's a young, talented quarterback with tons of potential being teamed up with a creative, offensive-minded coach, and it's working. And the defenses tend to be showing up and helping them out through his. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I don't know what's the difference between Goff last year and Trubisky this year. But obviously, I would think this Bears defense is really solid, and that helps him get through a lot. And he's got some young, great playmakers, just like Goff did, and Gabriel and Cohen. So, yeah, I would say it's an underreaction because I think if you look in the purest sense of that, yeah, just young, potential, loaded, talented quarterbacks with great offensive-minded coaches is getting it done.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's an overreaction. He is playing well. I think the numbers was like 19 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. That's 19 total because I think he got 17 passing, 2 rushing. But just for me, I mean, I think we're overreacting to their record right now, and their record shows that they're beating up on teams that's not good. All 6 of their wins, all 6 of them, have came against teams under 500 right now. You know, you got the Seahawks at 4-5, the Bucks at 3-6, the Cardinals at 2-7, the Jets at 3-7, the Bills at 3-7, and the Lions at 3-6. Their 3 losses came against teams that's 500 and better. So yeah, he's playing good against bad teams, which is what you're supposed to do. Because if he did, then we'll come out and say, hey, he played against all these bad teams and he did nothing. But I'm not going to overreact to you beating bad teams when you're an NFL pro, a first round pick. I just don't see that. I think it's overreaction. Just holler at me later because he got the Vikings twice coming up. And he played the Rams and he played the Packers again. Who's going to be looking to get back into that division playoff race. So holler at me then when you play these 3 teams here or these 4 games, and we'll see where they at the end of the year.
And it was a Lions team without Darius Slay.
Yeah.
That's an overreaction, and it's nothing to take away against the Saints. I think the Saints are a great team. They missed out on Dez, but they're trying to recapture that magic with Marshall. Brandon Marshall signing him this yesterday, I believe. But even without, they've won every game without him. So I think it's fine. The backfield with Kamara and Ingram seems to be rolling. Breeze is playing at a elite level. The only reason I'm saying it's an overreaction is me and Billy disagree on this. I think the Panthers are starting to fall off, which I think the Saints are going to lock that division up. They do have the Eagles. They do have the Steelers on the schedule remaining. Both teams that definitely have something to prove if they want to win their division and lock up a good playoff spot. So I think you're going to see, especially with Breeze being older, it's not like Patrick Mahomes where you need him to play all 16 games and get in a great rhythm. Breeze has a Super Bowl ring. Breeze has done this before. So I think as soon as they lock that division up, whether it be week 14 or week 17, I think you see them bench Breeze for a game or two, which makes them susceptible to losing to anybody. So I think that's a overreaction.
I agree with some of your points. I do think it is overreaction. I think they're going to go 13-3 because I think they're going to try to push. Although they're going to have that division wrapped up, they're not just playing for getting into the playoffs. I think they're fighting for the number 1 seed because now we see that the Rams can be beat. And so for me, I think both teams will go 13-3, the Rams and the Saints. But the Saints will obviously own the tiebreaker. So I think they're trying to go for the number 1 seed to get home field throughout the playoffs, throughout the NFC playoffs. So yeah, it's an overreaction, but I think they're going to fight for the number 1 seed.
Alrighty, guys, and just some insights on this. Their upcoming home games, they do have the Eagles, Falcons, and Steelers. Also, the Panthers at home, and then for the road games for the rest of the season, they do have Dallas, Tampa, and Carolina again. So they do play the Panthers twice in the upcoming weeks. I believe it's week 15 and 17 that they play the Panthers. It's pretty much a back-to-back game there. So moving on to the final overreaction, underreaction for today's show. The Patriots won't get a first-round AFC bye. Matthew Lyle.
I'm going to cop out on this one. I'm going to do a toss-up. I'm not panicked by what I've seen. If we want to talk about the 3 losses they had, they all 3 came against somebody that wants to beat the Patriots really, really bad. 2 an ex-Patriots coach and ex-Patriots players with a team full of ex-Patriot players, and a Jacksonville team who treated that game like the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to overreact by what I saw in that one game, but the Steelers are playing really good. The Chiefs, even though they have that win against the Chiefs, that doesn't mean anything if the Chiefs doesn't lose again. So, but I'm going to say toss-up because there is some urgency there, but it's not really a concern because the Patriots do have a chance to beat the Steelers and take that number 2 spot, which would be a bye, even if Kansas City doesn't leave or doesn't lose. So I'm just going to say toss-up on that one. It is what it is.
I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. There's cause for concern, especially if Gronk is not able to play. And I know they've been able to win without Gronk, but this ain't the same team. So history sometimes is the best lesson, but this team doesn't look like old Patriots teams, especially now without Gronk. And I know people will say, well, Gronk only got 1 touchdown this season, but that's what Gronk does. He pulls away 2 defenders so everybody else can shine. Now, I think, to Matthew's point, I think they could slide in there and get their first round bye because I think by default, because the San Diego Chargers or the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs is in the same division. Right now, I think those are the 2 best teams in the AFC, if you ask me, Kansas City and the Chargers. But, yeah, I mean, kind of a toss-up, but I think it's not an overreaction just based on the Steelers are playing well. So Houston is playing well, and they're in a division that's kind of so who knows?
All right, just to play
right, and
go ahead, Matthew.
Well, I was just going to say it's an interesting point. Anytime you're talking Patriots fans or not, is because Patriots fans, such as myself, we're always going to look at history. But if you're not a Patriots fan, and I see this all the time on ESPN, the NFL Network, you really want to be the first one because that, to steal from Max Kellerman, that cliff is coming for Brady and these Patriots. It's just a matter of when. And everyone wants to be the people that predicted it. And after every loss, after every bad performance, they always want to be the team they always want to be that person, that insider that says that was the game. So you're going to hear it after every loss, every struggle, every poor performance. To Billy's point, can they win with or without Gronk? Me and you we all three have debates about this off the air, and we all just want to be right. And so every time it's a bad performance, we're saying, boom, it happened right there. Who knows when it's going to happen? History will dictate. But I think there is a chance for them to still get that bye. And Billy brought up a great point with the Chargers being the second best team in the conference. They can't do anything about it because the only team better than them in the conference is better than them in the division.
All right, so I'm going to have a follow-up question for you guys here in a second as soon as I rattle off some stats here. The Patriots are 7-3, but they are 2-3 on the road this season. They pretty much had that division locked up, so they will be guaranteed a home playoff game. But at the present time, like you had, just like what you guys alluded to, you guys have the Chiefs and the Chargers that are currently ranked higher than them as records stand, as well as the Steelers. Also, the Texans and are coming on strong as late. So the question to you, Matthew, is: yes, the Patriots will have a home playoff game, but do they win that home playoff game even though they are 5-0 at home this season?
I mean, any concern that I have with or without the Patriots doesn't really have to do with home field advantage. I know that's weird, but when you got Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, it gets deeper than home in a way. When I think of who we play at home, it doesn't have to, like I said, it doesn't have to do with where that game's at. It's the matchups. You guys are always so mentioning that they're done without Gronk, and I argue and dispute that. But there are some teams that I think Gronk is that difference maker. The Steelers are one of them. If we play the Steelers at home and Gronk's 100% healthy or as healthy as possible, I'm not worried about it. But we play the Steelers in Foxborough without Gronk, it's a different story. How are we able to stop Mahomes? That pass rush, that secondary, doesn't matter if it's in New England, Kansas City, or Alaska. If we can't get that pass rush and that secondary is not flying around, I'm concerned about playing Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey, no matter where the game is. So that's the record on this with this Patriots team, given the history, that doesn't concern me, the home and the way. It's the matchups and things that we have seen, things that have historically Gronk has gotten us over the Steelers. Historically, teams in the Super Bowl, teams in playoffs that can pass rush, your Ravens, your Broncos teams a couple years ago when they was Manning there, your Giants teams that have beat us, the Eagles last year, they've been able to get to Tom Brady and rush him. And or vice versa, we've not been able to cause chaos. So to me, it doesn't matter where the game's at. It's the matchups that concern me.
I think it does matter where you play at. The number shows that in Foxborough against AFC teams, the Patriots are almost unbeatable at home. On the road, they can tend to fumble. Just right before Peyton retired, they went up to Denver. Probably should have lost that game. Brady didn't have his best game. The DB, I don't know what he was thinking about on that. But just for me, I think it does matter. I think this year, this Patriots team, because I can only judge you by what I see this year. I think they need to play at home in order to run the table. Because right now, I do have a little concern about Brady not being able to be as effective as he once was. So yeah, I think they do need to play at home, because if they get the right matchup, I think they could lose.
Alrighty, guys, and we're going to end the show right there today. Just before I get to the final segment of your guys' hot takes, I want to encourage everybody to subscribe and like to this podcast here. It'd be much appreciated. Help us spread the word. Help us spread the love of this great show that we're doing here. So, Matthew Lyle, what is your hot take for today? Matthew is gone. Billy Hatton, what is your hot take for today?
My hot take for today is Willie Taggart, FSU head coach, should be fired. He's not a good coach. He's never been a good coach. Nowhere he's been. The fans in Oregon couldn't wait for him to leave. and rightly so. And he's almost ruining my Seminoles. So just for me, Willie Taggart should be gone.
All right, you guys heard it here first on RTF Sports Talk. As always, thank you, Billy. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you all for joining us today, and we'll catch you guys on Thursday, 1 p.m. Have a nice day.